Morning light settles slowly over Baton Rouge. The air is thick with humidity, the kind that softens edges and slows movement. Trees stand still, heavy with the leaves that catch the pale sun without shining. A faint haze drifts near the ground, rising from the warmth held in the earth overnight. In the distance, small aircraft move across the sky. They glide quietly, leaving thin trails of sound behind them. The runways of regional airports stretch in long, straight lines, disappearing toward flat horizons. Fields lie beyond them, broad and open. Their surfaces shift gently in the breeze, though the sky remains still. The landscape here is wide and unhurried, shaped by weather that rarely changes with urgency. It is in a place like this that a pilot once moved through the air with familiarity. A pilot whose life would later be discussed more for its unanswered questions than for its certainties. A man whose name, over time, became tied to stories much larger than the space he occupied. Before the headlines and investigations, Barry Seal was known simply as a pilot, a man who understood aircraft the way others understand tools or instruments. He learned to fly young. He practiced with focus. He found comfort in the space above the ground, in the clean, open air where noise becomes a low vibration and the world below seems organized and distant. People who knew him described him without embellishment, a talented pilot, someone who moved easily around planes, checking surfaces, reading gauges, preparing for takeoff with a quiet confidence. His early life did not hint at the complexity that would follow. It moved in a straightforward rhythm, training, flying, building skill. The sky was an escape, a workplace, and a second home. But over time, his path shifted. Slowly at first, then more noticeably, until his flying connected him to people and operations far outside the routines of commercial aviation. The shift did not happen in a single moment. It unfolded across years, through opportunities, decisions, and circumstances that intersected with the changing political landscape in the United States and beyond. Yet even with this expansion, the central image of Barry Seal remained unchanged. A pilot standing near an aircraft, a man preparing to leave the ground once more. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Seal had become associated with smuggling operations. The details are documented in official records: flights between the U.S. and Central America, meetings with groups involved in narcotics trafficking, landings at small airstrips in remote areas. These activities were monitored by multiple agencies. The Drug Enforcement Administration became involved. Later, Seal also worked as an informant, documenting operations he had once participated in. The timeline is intricate but traceable. He transported illegal substances. He later cooperated with authorities. His cooperation led to arrests and the disruption of certain trafficking routes. During this period, Seal's movements continued to circle around aircraft. Small planes, remote runways, quiet departures that left only the sound of engines fading into the distance. In 1984, he relocated to Louisiana as part of arrangements tied to his cooperation. Court records show that he was required to remain in the state with limitations on his freedom of movement. His flights became less frequent, his life more confined. Yet the same themes remained: aviation, risk, and a path that had already moved beyond simple boundaries. On February 19th, 1986, Seal was killed outside the Salvation Army Center in Baton Rouge, where he had been ordered to stay nightly as part of his plea agreement. The individuals responsible were later arrested and convicted. Their actions were linked to criminal organizations angered by Seal's cooperation with U.S. authorities. These are the known facts. The timeline ends here, though the questions continue. There were several points where Seal's life changed direction. One came when he shifted from legitimate flying to smuggling. The reasons remain partly understood and partly speculative, a mixture of personal opportunity, financial incentive, and connections formed in ways that are not fully documented. Another turning point came when he was arrested in the early 1980s. The charges were serious. They placed him in a position where cooperation with federal authorities became a path forward. This cooperation, documented through photographs, flight logs, and testimony, created tension between the groups he worked with and the agencies he assisted. A later turning point occurred when Seal's identity as an informant became public. This disclosure, reported in national media, changed the conditions of his life dramatically. Security concerns increased. His movements were restricted, and the balance between risk and safety shifted in ways that could not be reversed. These events, though clearly recorded, still leave space for uncertainty. Why certain decisions were made, why certain protections were not in place, why information became public at the moment it did. Each turning point marks a step in a path that moves steadily toward an unavoidable end. Photographs taken by Seal during undercover operations remain part of the historical record. They show aircraft on remote runways, people standing near cargo, scenes captured with the detached precision of someone accustomed to documenting movement. His pilot logs also exist, pages filled with dates, flight numbers, destinations, numbers and notes that outline the structure of a life lived mostly in the air. Government documents record his cooperation, reports, testimonies, statements. These papers sit in archives, quiet, categorical, and free of emotion. The car in which he died was photographed and processed as evidence. It appears in records simply as an object connected to an incident without dramatic framing. There are also legal documents, arrest records, court transcripts, agreements signed between Seal and federal agencies. None of these materials explain the deeper questions. They only describe. They provide texture but not clarity, presence but not interpretation. Because Seal's life intersected with criminal organizations, federal agencies, and international operations, many theories have emerged. Some believe that his work as an informant put him in unavoidable danger. Others suggest that if his identity had remained confidential, the outcome might have been different. There are theories about the level of protection he received. Some argue it was insufficient. Others point to the complexity of his situation and the difficulty of safeguarding someone with his history. Some believe that larger geopolitical interests influenced the risks he faced. Others maintain that the events surrounding his death were the result of direct retaliation from individuals affected by his cooperation. These interpretations circulate around the central facts without settling. They fill the spaces left open by incomplete understanding, but none can be confirmed with full certainty. As with many stories involving secretive networks and government operations, parts of Seal's life remain in shadow, not by intention, but by circumstance. Today, the places connected to Barry Seal appear ordinary. Small airports continue to operate quietly. Runways stretch across open fields. Aircraft take off and land in steady rhythm. The Salvation Army Center in Baton Rouge still stands, its structure unchanged in the way many buildings remain solid through time. Passers-by may not know its connection to Seal. It sits in its place, part of the city's landscape, absorbing years without comment. The skies above Louisiana look the same as they did decades ago. Wide, bright, unmarked. Planes move through them, their sounds fading as they rise. Pilots follow established routes, check their instruments, maintain altitude, actions that Seal once performed with familiarity. In these ordinary scenes, the story feels distant, detached from the noise that grew around it. folded back into the background of a place that continues without ceremony. More than 3 decades have passed since Barry Seal's death. Files have been closed, cases resolved, yet questions linger in quiet corners of the narrative. Some believe answers may still surface. Others accept that certain parts of the story will remain unfinished. The details known today form only an outline, a framework of events without complete explanation. Within this outline lies a life of motion, of flights taken across shifting borders, and of choices whose full context is difficult to trace. The landscape remains unchanged. The runways still stretch into the distance. The sky still opens into a wide, silent expanse. And the story of Barry Seal settles into this silence, not concluded, not resolved, but resting in the space between what is known and what may never be fully understood. There is no final statement to offer, only the quiet recognition that some lives intersect with history in ways that resist certainty, leaving behind traces that drift through time, suspended like aircraft moving through still air.